Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. Just last week, welcoming the great city of Houston and San Antonio, Texas, of course, to the family. Welcome aboard. Also, SiriusXM, Channel 80. The number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Time for Straight Talk Wireless, brought to you by Straight Talk. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Listen, let me get right to it. Because it's an interesting to say the NBA playoffs begin today. Began this weekend, rather. And I'll get into the whole Colin Kaepernick situation and how that's gotten on my nerves. I'll get into the whole Des Bryant situation and how some people may be missing the boat with all of that. I'll get into all of that a little bit later on in the show. The one and only Ice Cube is going to be in the house to start off hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. We'll get into all of that. But NBA playoff action took place. It began in earnest for 2018 this past Saturday. And practically every game was great, with the exception of Golden State, San Antonio. That was just the Golden State Warriors reminding the San Antonio Spurs. And everybody, if you thought we would disappear, you must have forgot. You must have forgot who we are. Yes, we can flip that switch whenever we want to, especially against a team devoid of its best player in Kawhi Leonard, and having a guy in LaMarcus Aldridge who's allergic to prosperity come postseason time. At least half the games he plays in the postseason. But again, we'll get into all of that later. Right now, for me, even though it's just one game, even though the MVP race is decided based on what you do in the regular season, I want to sit up there and say thank you to the great James Harden for illuminating and augmenting my point. I said it weeks ago. I said it days ago. I said it hours ago, and I'm going to say it again. James Harden is the MVP of the 2017-2018 NBA season. And anybody who wants to sit up there and have the temerity, the unmitigated gall to get on my damn nerves with something to refute this, I don't even want to talk to you, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to run from anybody on my own radio show, but I ain't going to lie to you. I don't even want to talk to you. Because to me, when I look at that show that he put on last night, Lord have mercy, was he sensational. This is the kind of stuff that you sat up there and you used to have in L.A. with Kobe, that you wish you had in New York ever. No disrespect, and my apologies to the great Bernard King, but y'all know what I'm saying. When you look at James Harden and the performance that he put forth last night, 15-26 shooting, 44 points, he was absolutely sensational. There is no way about it. It was special, and everything he did was needed, because Clint Capella was the only person that showed up on the offensive side of the ball with James Harden. Everybody else, I don't know what happened to them. Chris Paul, aberration, no big deal. They were -4 with him on the court. He only hit like 5 or 12 shots, but they ain't no big deal. It's Chris Paul. We'll get over it. We will definitely get over it. Actually, 5 or 14 from the field. Finished with 14 points. And just 4 assists. That is not the Chris Paul that I know and love. But again, that's an aberration. I expect bigger and better things in the playoff games ahead. Trevor Ariza, P.J. Tucker, Eric Gordon took the night off offensively. Trevor Ariza and P.J. Tucker started. They were 1 for 11 combined for 6 points. Each of them had 3 points. Each of them only hit 1 field goal. Each of them played more than 30 minutes. Come on now. You need more than that. You need more than that from them. And we can look there and we'll talk about Minnesota as we get more into this particular game, because Karl Anthony Towns can't play 40 minutes and just give me 8 points and just 9 shots. That cannot happen. If you Karl Anthony Towns. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Here's the deal. The MVP conversation is relevant. Why? Because of what we saw in Cleveland. Because if you're not talking about James Harden, even though a name like Anthony Davis comes into the fold, and to a lesser degree of Damian Lillard, what you're talking about is James Harden or LeBron James. And everybody wants to sit up there and they want to give LeBron James credit because he still had a triple-double and he still showed up. But they got waxed by Indiana because Victor Oladipo has arrived. It is official. This brother is no joke. He's not playing. He's letting everybody know that he deserves to be mentioned amongst the stars in the National Basketball Association. And he showed us why yesterday with his 32-point outing and the show that he put on, doing what he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted, against a Cleveland Cavaliers team that was ill-equipped to defend against them, no question. But outside of the performance being about Oladipo or Indiana's defense and how their ball pressure seemed to be a bit too much for Cleveland, you know what jumped out in my mind once again? This is going to be the perfect excuse for people to sit up there and say, LeBron James, this is just further proof that he's the MVP. He's the most valuable player because you guess what, Stephen A? Here's the reality of the situation. What does he have around him? What does he have around him? Well, you know what my response to that is? Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? That's point number one. And point number two, if indeed you want to sit up there and look at it from that perspective, how come I can't look at it from the perspective that I just asked you? Whose fault is that? Because when I look at the MVP to be, as far as I'm concerned, in James Harden, I'm also looking at a James Harden that got a guy like Chris Paul, who's a superstar point guard, who wanted to leave the city of angels, Tinseltown, Hollywood, and everything that it comes with, who wanted to leave to come and play with James Harden, while you had a star guard in Kyrie Irving who wanted to leave away from LeBron James. I don't understand how people can't get this. It ain't just about what you do on the court. It's about what you did to affect what transpired on the court. LeBron James has everything to do. I'm not disrespecting the man here. I know he's the best player in the world. That's not what this is about. What this is about is the fact that you instigated a process that left you devoid of your ultimate weapon. Because I guarantee you, if Kyrie Irving was on the floor with LeBron James yesterday, what you saw from the rest of the Cleveland Cavaliers would not have happened. There's no way on earth that that happens if Kyrie Irving is there with LeBron James. It doesn't happen. You don't see a team that can't shoot. You don't see a team that can't handle the ball. A team that can't handle the ball with Kyrie Irving on it? Have you lost your mind? If LeBron wasn't handling the ball would have been in Kyrie's hands. And who on God's green earth is going to accuse Kyrie Irving of not being able to handle the rock? Who probably has the best handle in basketball? Who's going to accuse them of that? But Indiana got all up in them, and they could barely do anything with the basketball. Kevin Love can't dribble the ball. Kyle Korver can't dribble the ball. J.R. Smith can't dribble the ball, not really. Clarkson can dribble the ball, but he ain't on that level of Kyrie. George Hill is Mr. Conservative. I mean, if he was a politician instead of a basketball player, he'd put Ted Cruz to shame with his conservative ways on a basketball court. You got to be kidding me. George Hill it's asking a lot for him to put the ball behind his back. He just doesn't do it. I'm not saying he can. I'm saying he doesn't. He's just a very conservative, vanilla kind of player. And when you look at him and you watch him on the court, he's going to make shots from time to time, but that's about it. He's going to make shots from time to time. He's going to defend. That's what George Hill. That's what George Hill does. That's who he is. That's his game. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. That's George Hill. And if you're LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, you're in a world of trouble. You know why? Because Nate McMillan, being the exceptional coach that he is, a top 3 coach of the year candidate as far as I'm concerned, by the way. You got guys on the court. Look at this lineup. Bojan Bogdanovic, Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner, Thaddeus Young, and Darren Collison. And they ran the Cleveland Cavaliers out the building. Now, if you're LeBron, you might be assessing things. You might take the opportunity to sit up there and say, you know what? This is the deal. We felt them out. We're going to do all right. We still held them to 98 points. We're better than people thought we were going to be. We're going to be just fine. If you're LeBron James, that's your approach. I understand that. It makes sense. But you only scored 80 for a reason. And LeBron could do what he wants with Lance Stevenson pestering him. Gave him 17 strong minutes off the bench, scored 12 points, was in LeBron James' face. A couple of cheap fouls, cheap Bush League fouls. One of them should have definitely been a flagrant when he knocked LeBron upside the head. No question about that. But here's the reality. When you look at the Indiana Pacers, what do you see? You see a bunch of blue-collar dudes who don't care about who they're going up against, and you see a star in Oladipo who seems totally and utterly unfazed by big moments. They up 23. Cleveland pulls to within 8. The crowd's going crazy. Nate McMillan calls a timeout. Oladipo's like, give me the ball. Then sifted their pounds down. I got this. Not even concerned. Backs up, comes full steam ahead, has you on your heels, and then pulls up for a jumper. That's what he does. At will. And Cleveland seemed ill-equipped to stop him. He finished the game with 32. On 11 of 19 shooting, hitting 6 of 9 from three-point range. He is that dude. And Miles Turner getting the shot back. Bogdanovich being somewhat of a threat. Lance Stevenson coming off the bench. Look, Indiana is not playing. They're tired of Cleveland. Now, I had Cleveland coming out of the East because my attitude is I want to see who's going to beat LeBron the best 4 out of 7. I had no idea that these brothers on his squad were going to fail to show up, going to look indifferent, as apathetic as ever. I go inside. I'm in Houston, Texas today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in Houston, Texas, because I was there last night for game 1. I'm in H-Town, baby, and I walk into that locker room, and before I even had a chance to ask dudes about their own team, guys were asking me, what the hell is wrong with LeBron? What happened to him? Because he came out there last night, didn't even attempt a shot in the first quarter. Reminded me of James Harden in Game 6 against the Spurs last year in the Western Conference semifinals, where he didn't attempt a shot. Offensive players usually don't do that. But that's what LeBron did yesterday. And you got to wonder why. And not only do you have to wonder why, okay, in terms of his personnel, you also have to wonder how interested he is in moving forward with this team. And if he has questions about that, then you know that means he's probably not going to stay in Cleveland. And if he's not going to stay in Cleveland, where the hell is he going to go? It ain't going to be New York. L.A. with Magic, oh, yes. A lot of people think so since the man got two $20+ million homes in Brentwood. You take that into account. Is Miami a possibility? No, not after watching them against Philly this weekend, because let me tell you something right now. Philly is legit, ladies and gentlemen. Philly is legit. And it ain't just because of Ben Simmons. It's because of Redick and Bellinelli and Covington and Saric. You got shooters around size. And size that's willing to defend. And if they are willing to defend and they can shoot, no wonder they've won 17 straight. 16 straight to end the regular season, plus this playoff game against Miami. 1 minute it was competitive. The next minute the game is over. Philly wins by 27. It's one game, but had Dwayne Wade looking like he should retire. Only played 19 minutes. Hit 4 of 7 shots, scored 11 points. But why would Eric Spoelstra not have him more active, particularly when Richardson and guys like that are shooting 1 for 6 or 1 for 7? What's the problem? Miami just doesn't appear to have the talent to deal with the Sixers, and the Sixers blew them out without Joel Embiid. Yes, Kelly Olynyk had 26 points. But Hassan Whiteside, who you gave $93 million to, was basically irrelevant. And that was with Joel Embiid off the floor. So what are you going to do when he comes back? See, these are the interesting parts. Everybody been talking about the Toronto Raptors. We haven't talked enough about the Philadelphia 76ers. They might represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. You better ask somebody. And how can we rule them out? If you have that level of size and you have that many shooters and you have a rookie sensation in Ben Simmons with arguably the best big man in basketball in Joel Embiid, and you defend, Have we missed something here? Have we truly, truly missed something here? I might have done it. Focus so much on LeBron, thinking that, you know what? I got to see somebody beat him 4 straight. I still feel that way, but I got to tell you something right now. Strong level of trepidation. Strong level of trepidation on my part. Because I'm not sure about Cleveland and LeBron anymore. Not as bad as they looked. I'm still going to roll with them, but they got to win game 2. They got to win game 2. Now, some of you might sit up there and say, Stephen A., that's why he's the MVP. Oh, hell no. I'm not going for that, ladies and gentlemen. Nope. You don't get to essentially facilitate the departure of a Kyrie Irving, turn around, watch D-Wade come on board, because you're so tight with him, you alienate everybody else on your squad, not in a negative fashion where they thought you were a bad person. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that the brotherhood that you have with Dwayne Wade is so tight that the relationship with other guys on the team suffered somewhat. You don't get to do all of that. Compromise those relationships because of the arrival of Dwayne Wade, which came after you facilitated the departure of Kyrie Irving, which ultimately ended up facilitating the departure of Isaiah Thomas and Jamie Crowder, who's starting in Utah. You don't get to do all of that. And everybody says, but look at what LeBron James did. And you get MVP. No. Don't work that way. You the leader, right? You that dude, right? James Harden didn't have that problem. And there are people like, you've got people that talk about how James Harden is a beneficiary of his teammates. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, James Harden has averaged better than 29 points the last 3 years. How many more excuses are we going to come up with to deprive this man of what he has earned? When did it stop? The dude averaged 30 this year with more than 8 assists. He's clearly the go-to guy night in and night out. Every time he's on the floor, he's a scoring machine. He hits in the high 80s from the free throw line. He has point guard responsibilities. He has shooting guard responsibilities. With and without Chris Paul, he did the same damn thing. Last year, he led the league in assists. I had him winning the award until the last 2 weeks of the season, when Russell Westbrook just went haywire, went berserk. How many more times is James Harden going to be denied? It's not just about timing. It's about greatness. He isn't owed this because he was deprived the last 2 years. He's owed this because he's doing it. How many different ways do you want this to go down? How many different ways do you want an excuse to deprive this man of league MVP honors? What else do you need to see? And oh, by the way, he's 15 games better than LeBron James was this year. Does that matter? In a tougher conference than the Eastern Conference. Does that matter? With a superstar point guard that wanted to come play with him, not one who wanted to leave him. Does that matter? He ain't by himself in those State Farm commercials. Obviously facilitated by Chris Paul, who's been doing State Farm commercials for years, but it ain't an accident that all of them are in there. And oh, by the way, talk to the folks in Vegas. There's only 2 teams that really got a shot at the championship. It's Houston or Golden State. Ain't nobody else. Me personally, I'm starting to think Philly because of their ability to defend plus their ability to hit perimeter shots. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I can't ignore this any longer. I'm not going to ignore Philly, and I'm not going to ignore what James Harden has earned. He deserves this. Give it to him. He is the league MVP. I don't want to hear this noise about LeBron James. Nobody's taking away from the greatness of LeBron James. But you don't get to sit up there and compromise the success of your team and then benefit from it because you got numbers. Doesn't work that way. James Harden is the league MVP. And oh, by the way, I am a complete and vehement adversary of these bogus player association. What is it? What is it called? I don't even want to know what to call it. Is it a celebration? Is it an event? What is it? As far as I'm concerned, one of the biggest, most egregious things that I've seen is when Russell Westbrook got MVP award in front of those folks at a banquet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you the MVP. If James Harden's going to be that MVP, I want that MVP handed to James Harden in front of these fans in Houston who showed up 41 nights a year throughout the regular season to cheer him on. I'm quite sure that if James Harden has an opportunity to hoist the MVP trophy, he would want it to be in front of his teammates and a packed side inside of the Toyota Center instead of a damn banquet inside of a hotel in New York City after the season's over. Talk about stealing a moment and making something anticlimactic. Give it to him right here in Houston, in front of these fans. The very ones that cheered him on and screamed his name and sparked him to the greatness that he's exhibited throughout this season. Now, mind you, I'm the same dude who told you that Houston's going to lose in the conference finals. Because I still believe in my heart of hearts, if Golden State is fully loaded and Houston is fully loaded, Golden State wins a Game 7 back here at the Toyota Center in H-Town, Houston, Texas, where I am today. I still go with Golden State. But nothing takes away from the great season that James Harden has had. And even the great LeBron James shouldn't be allowed to take away from it either. Because to do so this year, you're basically saying everybody needs to be LeBron. That's what you're saying. And clearly that's not the case. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Your phone calls and more up next on the NBA playoffs. And I'll get into Colin Kaepernick a little bit later as well as Des Bryant too. Stick around. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Reminding you that hour number 2, the one and only Ice Cube will be in the house to rap with us about the NBA playoffs, plus his Big 3 league that's going to take off once the NBA season is over. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Dwayne and Cali. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Dwayne? How are you?
I'm good.
Dwayne.
Thanks a lot for taking my call. Yes, can you hear me?
All right, speak up, bro. Yes, I can now. Go ahead, speak up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you a lot for taking my call, Stephen A. Actually, I wanted to say I'm with you on LeBron James not being the MVP. So I'll put that on record. And I'm a LeBron James fan. But it seems crazy to bring up Kyrie Irving. It seems crazy to bring up Kyrie Irving when he's injured. But also, you know that there was reports saying that he actually found out that the Cavs were trying to trade him, and then he wanted to leave. So I don't know how it's LeBron James's fault for that. Because they came
to LeBron James to ask him how he felt about such a thing, and he was cool with it.
Right. I heard that he was cool if they were getting big time players. He said that if they are able to get Paul George and Bledsoe for Kyrie Irving, that would be a big deal. And so, but I don't know how that's LeBron's fault. If somebody's coming to him and saying,
well, my man, you talking, but you don't. You know, are you asking rhetorical questions or do you want an answer?
Oh no! I want an answer. I was just trying to figure out how is it?
But you're trying to figure it out. But you keep talking. I keep trying to answer your question. I've reported this on many occasions. Paul George, Eric Bledsoe, yes, but it's not just about that. It's about the fact that you're coming across it to this dude like you're a little brother, and you know what? Y'all won a championship together, and you thinking that you want to be as thick as thieves, but that didn't end up being the case. And if something like that is going to go down, he wants to hear it from you. He don't want to hear it from nobody else. He doesn't want to hear it through the grapevine. So when stuff like that happens, you end up feeling betrayed. Now, that doesn't mean that's what LeBron James did, but it doesn't negate the fact that that's what Kyrie felt at the time. Not to mention the fact that you're doing all of this, knowing that the possibility for you leaving Cleveland is very, very significant. So where's that going to leave me?
Right.
All of those things didn't lend itself towards him feeling like that little brother that everybody wanted him to feel like. And that's one of the reasons that propelled him to even want to be his own man even more so.
Right. I was just thinking
that's
that
to answer your question.
I was just saying that we're letting Dan Gilbert off the hook. He's been a terrible owner, and I just feel like you should be going after him.
Is there any owner worse than James Dolan in New York?
No, seriously though.
Listen, once again, I'm asking questions. You don't like answering questions. I noticed that. You just want to talk, but I'm trying to ask you a question because I got a follow up. Is there an owner worse than James Dolan?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. In New York, we never really talk about him. Do you know why? Because there's nothing you can do about owners. Unless they commit a Donald Sterling act, what you going to do with them?
Right, but when it comes to trades, shouldn't we be going after the owner, though?
I'm just saying to you, there's nothing you can do about it. All I'm trying to say to you is that if this man comes to LeBron James, I'll do what you want, but you need to commit to 3 to 5 years, commit to being here, and I'll do what you want. And LeBron James says no, then that's what you have. And even though everybody knows that and knows that about Dan Gilbert, that doesn't take away from the personal relationship you were developing and cultivating on your own with a teammate and how that ultimately fell apart. You're going to tell me, you could talk to me about the trades and all of this other stuff. You're going to tell me that Dan Gilbert's responsible for what happened with LeBron and Kyrie on a personal level?
Well,
we know better than that.
I think he is responsible. He's not. He might be responsible for Kyrie being gone because Kyrie had 2 years left on his contract, and he should have listened to LeBron James, who said don't trade him. That might be true, but you got to hold one or the other accountable for the direct relationship they have with one another. They're young men. They're not babies. Dan Gilbert ain't got nothing to do with that. Have a good day, bro. Talk to you later. Chris and Cali, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Good morning. Good afternoon, wherever you may be. I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
things. Cleveland is not very good, Stephen A. I've been trying to tell you that from the LeBron's going to be fatigued. He's still going to get out of Indiana, get through this series, but they're not very good. They have nobody else to lean on. But I have a question for you regarding New Orleans and Portland. Do you still swing in Portland's favor because they have no answer for Davis? But like I mentioned to you on Friday, Drew Holiday and Rondo are savvy enough to balance the scoring and what Portland's going to bring their way. So have you switched your pick with that one?
I don't understand your question.
Well, are you still picking Portland to win the series?
Yes, I am. I wasn't surprised at what Anthony Davis did. I was surprised at how Drew Holiday played. I know he can defend, but I thought he was more effective offensively than I had anticipated. Rondo being in the lineup with him is a big deal. I guess that experience, it wouldn't surprise me at all. To me, the Portland-New Orleans series is a gimme. It's a pick 'em rather, because I could easily see New Orleans beating them. But because of the way Portland has played, the chemistry that they've displayed, combined with the fact that a Game 7 would be back in Portland, I'd like to give them the edge. I think if New Orleans were to win this series, they got to take them out in 6. I don't have faith that New Orleans can go into Portland for a Game 7 and win that series. But that's the only reason I picked Portland, because a Game 7 would be in Portland.
No, I don't think it's going to get that far, in my opinion. But I think Drew Holiday's been consistent all year. Okay. And just real quick, I think Drew Holiday's been consistent all year. And the addition of Rondo has really helped him out, just taking him off the ball. And those two guys, man, I think that they're the perfect complement to what Anthony Davis brings. And just C.J. McCollum, I don't think is really that good, honestly, me personally. And Lillard didn't play that well. So I think they will be bouncing 6 games, in my opinion.
Well, see, my whole deal is this. Where I have trepidation about New Orleans is, what if you dared Rondo to shoot? Because Rondo can't shoot perimeter shots. Even though he usually performs better in a postseason than he does in a regular season in that category. That's my concern. The game has evolved in such a way that if you can force a guard to shoot perimeter shots that can't shoot, it will usually debilitate you. And I guess that's what I was looking at, but you could have a point.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a secret. That's no secret. But Rondo he affects the game in so many different areas that
he does. And he's a champion.
Absolutely.
And he's a champion. He's more of a positive than a negative. I'm not trying to imply anything otherwise. I'm just saying that at some point in time, if they find out a strategy defensively that forces him to be a shooter, that could change things for the worse in New Orleans, on New Orleans' behalf. That's all I'm saying. But I appreciate the call, Chris. Very, very valid points on your part.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Keep them heads ringing. Ow. Gentlemen, it's one of my favorite times of the year. The 2018 NFL schedule is about to be released for your team. The time is now to jump on tickets. Vivid Seats has you covered. The official ticket partner of ESPN. Download the free Vivid Seats app today to get your 2018 NFL tickets. ESPN Radio also is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. Back to the phones we go before we start off hour number 2 with the great Ice Cube coming in the house. Bugsy in Indiana. You're live at Stephen A. Talk to me, brother. How are you?
Good, man. How you been? Long time no talk.
I'm doing all right. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I do agree with you for once, and I think Philly will come out of the East. And the Pacers are actually going to take out the Cavs. But LeBron is still the MVP. You know why?
I'm listening.
Just think, without LeBron, they got the number 1 draft pick 3 out of the 4 years. And I'm tired of all the Kyrie Irving talk, because me and you both have more playoff wins than Kyrie does without LeBron.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. Because we all acknowledge that LeBron's is the best in the world. Nobody's denying that. So your point is from an historical perspective, along with a history, a body of work. Nobody's disputing that about LeBron James. We're just simply saying for this season, considering all the issues that Cleveland has had, that's been on him as well. And that can't be escaped. You can't be an MVP with all of that nonsense attached to you, which he has. And I still, by the way, believe they're going to beat Indiana.
I don't know. I don't think so, because Indiana's up 4-1 on the year.
I understand. You're right about that. You are right about that. But listen, I'd be shocked if it happened. LeBron goes home in the first round. But then again, who knows? He might not want to play. We haven't really considered that. He might not want to play. Think about this. Does LeBron really want a 6th NBA Finals loss on his resume? I don't think he does.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he does. It's entirely plausible that LeBron might say, man, bump this. I'd rather lose now than in the finals. It's entirely possible. Think about that. Appreciate the call, Bugsy. Thank you. Let's go to Dan in Kansas City. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Danny.
Hi, Stephen A. How you doing? My roommate, Daniel, he's a big Rockets and Thunder fan. He's saying Harden will win the MVP. And my second thought, what do you think about Mike Woodson now being the candidate for the Knicks job?
I don't think he's a candidate for the Knicks job. I think the story said that Mike Woodson wants to be interviewed for the Knicks job. He wants to be considered because he feels he deserves the right to finish the job. I'm of the mindset that New York needs more blood. I would love Mike Woodson to be a head coach again someday soon. I think he deserves it. I just don't know if New York's the right place for him. I think there's various jobs. I think he should be considered for the Charlotte job. I think he should be considered for the Orlando job, even though I think Jerry Stackhouse is going to get that Orlando job. I think Mark Jackson should get the New York job. To a lesser degree, David Fizdale. I just think you need some fresh blood, and I think it preferably should be somebody with New York roots, which is why I've been pushing for Mark Jackson. Well, that's just me. Appreciate the call, though, Dan. Thank you so much. Josh in Indiana, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Josh.
Hey. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, go ahead real quick, buddy.
Yeah, you actually answered my question on when you were answering another guy from Indiana there 2 messages ago. I was going to ask if you think it's possible that Indiana comes past Cleveland this year.
Well, I think it's possible, especially how can we say it's impossible after what we saw yesterday? I definitely think it's possible, but you got to show me that you can knock LeBron James out in the best 4 of 7 in the Eastern Conference playoff series, especially a first round. I got to see it to believe it. I'm not going to just give that to them because Oladipo looked like a star yesterday. I need more evidence than that.
But I
need more evidence than that.
I think they have a better year than any other year in the past half decade when Indiana was facing LeBron, when it was still with the Heat and the Cavs. And they got knocked every time. I think. What do you mean?
What do you mean they got knocked every time? What are you talking about?
Back when it was with the Heat, the Pacers lost to the Heat. I'm not sure if it's 2 times.
Twice. It was twice in Eastern Conference Finals, back-to-back years. Go ahead.
And then last year they got knocked out in the first round by the Cavs.
Yep. Right. So you're saying that you think they're due? You think they're due?
Yeah, I think they have a better year. I think they have a better chance of beating LeBron.
I got you. It makes sense. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. That does make sense. Hour number 2 up next. Ice Cube is in the house. By the way, I got a question for y'all. When was the last time you checked your credit score? Know what they are now? Not from a year ago with Credit Karma. The best thing about Credit Karma is always free and there's no credit card needed. Just go to creditkarma.com and download the Credit Karma app. Learn what affects your scores and what you can do to improve them. Once you know where you stand, Credit Karma helps you figure out your next move. And Credit Karma also offers free credit monitoring. So visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's Credit Karma, KARMA.com. That's creditkarma.com. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio up next. More NBA playoff stuff to get into. Colin Kaepernick, Des Bryant, and then some. Hour number 2, but Ice Cube is up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. It is my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line, my brother, rap artist, director, actor, producer extraordinaire, plus the co-founder of the new Big 3 League that had its debut last summer, is having his second inaugural season this coming summer. The one and only Ice Cube is in the house right now. What's going on, baby? Yay, yay!
Yay, what's happening with you, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing all right, man. It's good to talk to you. First things first. Before we get into the NBA players, because you know we're going to get into the playoffs heavily, I want you to talk to me about this Big 3 League. How did you feel about the Big 3 League last year? What did you think it accomplished? What was your goal in terms of what you wanted it to accomplish?
I just wanted to do something hot in the summer. I wanted to fill a void that I thought was in sports, which was, 3-on-3 basketball elevated to the pro level. I had to really, think about how to get people interested. We came up with a brilliant way to get people interested in the game, which was have ex-NBA players play it. And we got Hall of Fame coaches and champions. And so I felt like we had something that was great, and people accepted, 3-on-3 basketball like they never had before. So I think we accomplished the mission. Last year was a show me year. This year is a prove it year. So we're gonna prove it this year that this is a formidable sport. It's fun. It's great. It's what the world been missing. And here we are, Big 3.
Now, when you talk about the Big 3, Ice Cube, and what it accomplished, is there something that we should expect to see this year that we didn't see last summer?
Oh, we're live. Last year we were tape delayed, and we have better players. I think guys are more in shape. Guys know what to expect. Last year, guys didn't really know what to expect. They didn't know if it was going to be, friendly, like all-star kind of game where we just hanging out playing, or is it, going to be serious and hard-nosed competition? And what they found out is a real league broke out, and guys are going at it, and guys are taking it serious. Guys are getting in shape. And the league, it's going to evolve. It's going to evolve into something that people, are going to end up loving and looking forward to every year. And we're going to, like I said, the league is going to probably take different, postures and different shapes throughout the years to become what we believe it needs to be.
We're talking to Ice Cube, rap artist, director, writer, producer extraordinaire, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Having said all of that, I remember, I showed up to the game in Philly. LL Cool J was in attendance. He's a big-time supporter of the league. I remember watching the game in Tulsa. Russell Westbrook showed up in attendance. He obviously is trying to look out and was supportive of the league and what have you. When you think about the support that you've received, one of the things that I think about religiously is the NBA, because obviously they're the monolith right now. The NBA is the NBA. And obviously you're not trying to compete with them. You're trying to help them out. You want to contribute in any way you possibly can. How receptive has the NBA been towards you guys in terms of what you're trying to do?
I mean, they've been very cool with us. They're not going to do too much to help us at this point till we stand on our own 2 feet, but they haven't done anything to hurt us. And, they've encouraged us to, get better. I'm not concerned with the NBA, hurting the Big 3 or not wanting the Big 3 to succeed. I'm more concerned with, the sports fabric of America or the world when it comes to, stations like ESPN or, you got to look at the whole fabric of sports and people that's pushing out serious sports. And so I'm trying to make sure I get enough love from the sports world and they understand this is a real sport and this is not some, clown show rolling around the country, or this is not some sideshow, but this is Big 3 is here to stay, and it is pro basketball on the 3-on-3 level. And so, we're working to gain the respect of the sports world to take us serious. And we got some work to do, but we ain't scared of hard work.
Let me ask you this question. Do you anticipate that NBA players, current NBA players, will be in attendance more so this upcoming summer than they were last summer? Do you anticipate that happening?
Oh, yeah. I think they're looking forward to it. Their heroes is on the court. Their friends, peers are on the court. Everybody want to hang out with Dr. J and Iceman and, the greats of the sport, Rick Barry. And, so it's really, a place where, NBA players, current ex-players can feel home. They can feel relaxed. They can feel like they're part of it. So, we want to encourage all the ex-NBA players and people that's been around the league and the greats to come hang out with the big three, feel the camaraderie. It's a whole league. I'm running around the country with 48 great players who all are trying to accomplish something great. And so, we here, and we hope, one day, it's a dream of ours, because we do have to have a 3-on-3 Olympic team. And we hope one day that players that are currently in the NBA will feel like if they want to get their run on in the summer, they can come play with the big three. Of course, that's going to take, some time to make that synergy work. And, of course, the NBA would have to agree. But why not, one day have, current players come run with us. So, when that day comes, it'll be another milestone. But if it don't come, Big Three will still be here for players that still want to get their run on.
Ice Cube right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. When the season debut? When's your first game? What
June
date?
22nd. June 22nd, we're in Houston, Texas, kicking it off. Our new commissioner, Clyde Drexler, his home town. He ready to get busy where they love him so much.
I'm here. I'm here in H-Town right now, and Clyde Drexler, I just saw him last night, Cube. He's happy right now.
Yes.
He's happy right now.
Commish. Yeah, he's been great for us, man. The league has taken on a whole new respect with him, leading us and leading the charge for the league and helping us to make this thing into something great. And, so we all over the country this year, and we're excited that we're live. And it's going to be Friday Night Live, man. And, Friday, my day of the
Friday
week.
Night Live. No, Friday Night Live, FS1. That's where Big Three tournament begins June 22nd. I'm right here in H-Town, Ice Cube. I was at the moving to the NBA. I was in Houston. I'm in Houston right now. Houston played against Minnesota Game 1 of the first round series between them and the Timberwolves right now. Who's your MVP for the regular season? NBA regular season.
Wow, man.
Ice Cube?
It's always hard when it comes to this. I got candidates. You got to put James Harden up there. But LeBron is always in the mix. Russell Westbrook is a – did I say Westbrook? Yeah, okay. I always get him mixed up with Russell Wilson.
Don't worry. No, I got you. It's Russell Westbrook, who just averaged a triple-double for the second consecutive year. We can't forget him.
Hey, man, how you going to forget that? I mean, that's more than incredible. So, these guys are at the top of my list, and I wish it could play out through the playoffs, and we could see who really the MVP. But I guess it's something that we got to figure out before the season is over. Do they still do it before the season is over, or they do it at some award show afterwards? How's it go?
It's when the award show afterwards. They need to do it while the season's going on before the season's over. I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling them hoisting that trophy in front of their hometown fans that came there and supported them 41 nights a year. Q. That's me.
Come on now. Yeah, that's a misplay. I think the NBA they gonna fix that. That ain't right.
Help me out with this thinking, Q, because you and I go back and forth about basketball a few times a year and what have you. Help me out with this thought process. My attitude on league MVP is simple. LeBron James is the greatest player in the world. We all know that. Can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side to it and what have you is that when I think about his numbers, it ain't just about his numbers. I'm thinking about James Harden averaging better than 29 for the third consecutive years, balling the way that he's balling, 15 games better than Cleveland, in a tougher conference, which is the West instead of the East. And on top of it all, he had a superstar point guard in Chris Paul that wanted to come play with him, whereas LeBron had a superstar point guard in Kyrie that wanted to leave from playing with him. I take those things into consideration, and I say to myself, well, Cleveland might have struggled this year, but LeBron's got something to do with that. James Harden in Houston hasn't struggled this year. James Harden has everything to do with that. That factors into the MVP voting as well for me. What about you?
I mean, that's why you get paid the big bucks, man. You think of all that kind of stuff, man. Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, when you put it that way, yeah, exactly. But, like, you know, how do you not give it to the best player in the world? But also, how do you not reward a guy who has a season like James Harden and Westbrook? You know, it's become a harder, you know, I guess, you know, now that I think of it, it's always been hard. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's right.
Even when you feel like it's clear cut, you know, it's still other people that deserve it. So this award has always been hard to define.
Well,
and I
think you know this because
what's great about the award, and that it keeps us talking all the time and debating. So I don't think they're going to change nothing because it generates so much conversation.
Ice Cube right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Who you got meeting in the finals?
Wow. You know, I've been on this big three thing so tough. You know, let me think about it. You know, I got to say who I want. I would love to see, you know, Houston in the finals.
Right.
And, you know, who wouldn't want to see, you know, somebody like Philly or something, you know, something new.
You know what?
You know, something new.
Philly's looking special right now. They've won 17 straight. They're looking special right now. But listen, before I let you go, I'd be remiss in neglecting not to ask you about your Los Angeles Lakers. How do you feel about the season that they've had, first of all? How do you feel about the job Magic Johnson's been doing thus far?
I give the season, I say, is a B, solid B.
Okay.
We accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, which was who's going to be here, and did we get better? And I think we did. And are we coming together as a team? And I think we are. So I give that a B. That's where we wanted to be. Of course, I wish we'd have won a few more games at the end. But solid. I give, you know, Magic. I give him an A. Give him an A.
Yeah,
he doing. It
got to be because of Kyle Kuzma. It got to be because of Kyle Kuzma. It can't be because of Lonzo.
He hasn't made any moves where I said, you know, I mean, when Clarkson and Nance left, I was hurt because those are some of my favorite players. Because you know, I just like they attitude and their game. So I was mad that day, but ultimately, you know, I give Magic an A and Pelinka. Is that his name, Pelinka?
Yeah, Rob Pelinka, your GM.
Rob Pelinka, yeah.
Yep.
I give him.
All right.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Here's my last question to you. You got the summer of 2018 coming up. You got LeBron and Paul George, who are going to be free agents. Summer of 2019 coming up. You got Klay Thompson, you got Jimmy Butler, and Kyrie Irving. All are going to be free agents. Does Magic have to get one or two of them to satisfy you? If he didn't get any of them, how would you feel?
I think one of them. I don't know if I want to, because every time we bring in two, it's a disaster. We brought in Gary Payton, wasn't happy with that, had to bring in Karl Malone. That was a disaster. We bring in, I believe it was Dwight Howard.
Yep. He came in.
Same time, Steve Nash didn't work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like you bring in one, and, you know, that's who you bring in, that's who's your superstar, and you continue to build around one of those players. And then after, you know, if y'all don't get where y'all want to be, then you add another piece. But when you bring them in both at the same time, I mean, it happened a little with Kobe and Shaq. Luckily, Shaq was already established and Kobe was trying to get established. But just think if Kobe was that alpha male when he got here, like, it would have been probably no championships. You never know. So, it's always weird when you try to bring in two alpha dogs to fight for one
Ice Cube.
Locker room.
Ice Cube, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Good luck with the Big 3 tournament. Second season starts June 22nd in H-Town, Houston, Texas. Appreciate you, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Appreciate you, too.
Thanks
Much love. Later.
No doubt. Absolutely. The one and only Ice Cube right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. Listen, here's the bottom line. The Big 3, retired NBA players playing in the 3-on-3 tournament, I like it. Never had a problem with it whatsoever. It's nice to see some of those old school guys still trying to get out there to try to show what they have, showing the difference between running 94 feet and playing 3-on-3. Plus, it keeps basketball in the mind's eye. In the age where the NFL is king, where you're talking about NFL 365 days out of the year, 24/7, it's great for the NBA to have an extension of itself without really having something related to it. In other words, this is not something that's affiliated with the NBA. But inevitably, if you have former players in the NBA that are playing 3-on-3 basketball, it keeps you thinking, it keeps your mind percolating about NBA action. Once the season rolls around and what are certain guys going to do, et cetera, et cetera. That's what it does. It keeps you thinking about a Russell Westbrook. It keeps you thinking about a James Harden. It keeps you thinking about a LeBron James and a Kevin Durant and all of those other guys. And I think that's a great, great thing. I think it's a great thing for the sport. And I don't think it's something that should ever be ignored. So I love what Ice Cube is doing, and I'm hoping it continues to work out. I'm hoping they continue to thrive and prosper. Looking forward to seeing more of the Big 3. Plus, my boys Jim Jackson, Gus Johnson, call the games. Clyde Drexler, Hall of Famer, is your commissioner. Who knows who's going to be coaching some of these teams or what have you. Maybe Rick Mahorn will coach again this year. It's real interesting. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And I think y'all will too. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Before I go to the calls, I wanted to bring up something about Colin Kaepernick. Because Colin Kaepernick made some news again because he brought up something about Jackie Robinson. And I just felt compelled to have to respond. I have to respond to this. I host a radio show. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I feel that certain things need to be said and certain things need to be mentioned. And Colin Kaepernick tweeted a quote that Jackie Robinson once uttered. And it says, quote, "I cannot stand and sing the anthem. I cannot salute the flag. I know that I am a black man in a white world." That's what Colin Kaepernick said. And to me, that's fine. I applaud Colin Kaepernick's courage. He obviously knows the repercussions of those actions. You can debate whether you want to see him stand for the national anthem or not. And certainly he himself did not do anything wrong here by point. He's consistent with his position and he's to be applauded for that. But for those of you out there who would sit up there and say, you know what, Colin Kaepernick is comparable to Jackie Robinson, now you're crossing the line. You're going too damn far. You're going too damn far. Jackie Robinson is responsible for integrating Major League Baseball. Jackie Robinson was a pariah. Jackie Robinson didn't have support anywhere from the establishment. Jackie Robinson He was handpicked by Branch Rickey because his temperament would allow him to endure the vile, venomous vitriol aimed in his direction. Now, one could sit up there and say Colin Kaepernick is going through some of the same things. But Jackie Robinson didn't just go through that because of what he was doing. He went through it because of who he was. That's not the case with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was a young black man, and you know what? He was being, I know, he experienced racism and all of that other stuff, just like a lot of folks have from minority communities. There's no doubt about that. But certainly, he nor the rest of us in this day and age are subjected to the kind of stuff that these folks pre-civil rights days were subjected to. Keep in mind, couldn't patronize businesses, couldn't eat in the same restaurants, couldn't drink out of the same water fountains, couldn't use the same bathrooms, did not have the right to vote, did not have the right to participate in the number one instrument for change that we have in this country outside of dollars. Pump the brakes with the Jackie Robinson comparisons. And I'm not talking to Colin Kaepernick because I'm not accusing him directly of doing that. I'm accusing those who would interpret his actions of being comparable to Jackie Robinson. Pump your damn brakes. But I got something else to tell you. Do you realize, if not the actions, then definitely the repercussions that Colin Kaepernick is experiencing? While they may invoke some similarities to Jackie Robinson, you know what else? You know who else it may invoke some similarities to? President Donald Trump. Yes, Colin Kaepernick and Donald Trump could indeed be mentioned in the same sentence as one another. I'll explain to you why in a few moments. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show is brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Plus, get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Let me be very, very clear, because I want to make sure that nobody confuses what my point is. I support Colin Kaepernick's right to kneel. I have no issue with it whatsoever. I've supported him from day one in that regard. Having said all of that, I also understand that there's ramifications and repercussions that come along with it. Fair or unfair, that's the reality. And Colin Kaepernick clearly knew it. And these are the stances. This is the position that he's willing to take. Now, but let's be clear about something. Let's make sure we understand what's going on here. Colin Kaepernick, and I want to put it in order of secret so everybody understands where I'm coming from. So I don't mind being held accountable for what I say and feel. I just hate when it's misconstrued and misinterpreted. Condemn me, vilify me, do whatever you want. As long as you're accurate about how I feel, I'm good with it, because I can take it, because I don't give a damn. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I'm just going to fight over the false interpretations that get put out there. So let me be very, very clear about what I'm saying. Colin Kaepernick was right, perfectly within his right to do what he did. Okay? But here's how things changed. The president of the United States, Donald Trump, hijacked the issue, hijacked the narrative, and turned an issue about racial inequality, racial oppression, black unemployment, law enforcement brutality, Donald Trump took that and turned it into an issue involving patriotism. He made it about the red, white, and blue, the flag. Now, black folks and minorities overall are in an uproar talking about how that's not what Colin Kaepernick was talking about, blah, 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 blah. I say blah, 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 blah because it doesn't matter. You're absolutely right. That's not Colin Kaepernick's issue. It was never his issue. But it did not stop them from stealing the narrative for their own selfish purposes. And what Donald Trump did was make it about patriotism. 66% of America's population is white. A vast majority of them happen to be white working class, which is where he got most of his votes from, which also happens to be most of the people who patronize the NFL product. And as a result, because he successfully changed and altered the narrative and made it about something that it wasn't, it compromised the NFL's bottom line. Once it compromised their bottom line, the priority for the owners became the bottom line. Not that it ever deviated from that, but more specifically and more intimately, that's what it became more about. Now, Donald Trump himself, the president of the United States, whether we like it or not, he had his own selfish motives. He said, I wanted to become an owner in the 80s when I was owning the USFL. That's why we sued them for $1.7 billion antitrust in the mid-1980s. He won the case, but he was only rewarded $1. And it basically ruined the USFL. Then in 2014, him befriending several owners, including New England's Robert Kraft, Mr. McNair in Houston, okay, Daniel Snyder in Washington and others. What does Donald Trump do? He wants to become an owner of the Buffalo Bills. What happens? He wants to own the Buffalo Bills. NFL owners shun him on that. They denied it. He said at the time, okay, I'll just run for president. How would I know this? Because I was on the phone interviewing Donald Trump at that time. That's how. And that's exactly what he said. And so we have to understand that what is the relationship between Donald Trump and Colin Kaepernick? It's simple. Both of them have essentially been kept out of the NFL because of their willingness to affect the NFL's bottom line in a negative fashion. Donald Trump with the antitrust lawsuit, Colin Kaepernick with the protest. Because if you're an NFL owner, you're saying, wait a minute, he's not protesting against me. He doesn't have a problem with me. He has a problem with society. Well, why is he allowing it to affect our bottom line, our cash cow? Especially when you can't even complete 60% of your passes. But you've made over $40 million in our league. So they said, damn that. Just the same way that Donald Trump, they said, damn that. Now it's two different worlds coming from two different stratospheres. One has nothing to do with the other, but the bottom line is the same. In the eyes of the NFL owners, it don't matter whether you're a black dude protesting the national anthem because of societal issues that affect the minority community, or you're a white billionaire, essentially a part of our community, but who happen to try and affect our bottom line. It doesn't make a difference to us. You are trying to affect our bottom line negatively. You've got to go. That is how Colin Kaepernick and Donald Trump belong in the same sentence. And it is undeniable.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it. What I got cut off saying before I went to the calls is this. When you had Mrs. Ford, the owner for the Detroit Lions, talking with Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick and others, willing to make contributions and to match their contributions to communities and what have you, that was a very significant thing. When you had Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden and the Players Coalition that got the owners to give up over $89 million to address causes within the African American community, that's also something that's significant. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that if you're an owner and you sit up there and you make those kind of contributions and you were never the one being protested against to begin with, you have to understand that their resentment towards Colin Kaepernick has elevated because he's not even complaining about them. He's complaining about society. Now, obviously, he's got a grievance against them now because he believes they've colluded to keep him out of the league. Their argument is we don't have to collude with anybody. Who the hell will want you because you affect our bottom line in a negative way? That's what this has regressed into. And here's what it comes down to. Their biggest argument is their feelings about the president. They believe the president personalized his animosity against them, which was why he spoke against Colin Kaepernick. He used the Colin Kaepernick issue as an excuse to try and harm the NFL because they never let him in. So the NFL was going to be like, we didn't let the president in. Before he was president, and obviously he was a billionaire businessman. We didn't let him in. And he's one of us. So what would make you think we're going to tolerate you? These are the kind of things you got to pay attention to. It's inescapable. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call up. Sal in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Steve. Why are we talking about NFL
buddy.
right now? It's NBA playoffs. Greatest time of the year right now.
Oh, no, time. Stop right there. Stop right there. Don't tell me how to do my show. You got an NBA comment, you make an NBA comment. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. I talk about what I want to talk about. Now go ahead.
I want to talk about NBA playoffs. But last night, why were they playing Jimmy Butler so close, and they took so long to come over and double team him, when the rest of the team was shooting horrible? You know? They kept one-on-one. Why didn't they come over and double team him quicker on the top of the key?
Well, you know what? I got a better question for you. How come Tom Thibodeau doesn't have Jimmy Butler and Jamal Crawford in at the same time? You going against an offensive firepower like offensive firepower like the Houston Rockets with James Harden leading the way. Don't you need some of your own?
Yeah, but the rest of the team was shooting bad, and the only reason the center scored 20 points was because
I just finished saying. But that's why I said, why don't you put Jamal Crawford and Jimmy Butler in together? Because you put them in together with Teague, you got three guys that can shoot from the perimeter, and as a result, it enables you to spread the floor evenly, and then Karl Anthony Towns has more room to do damage, as opposed to being switched on and doubled all the time, where he gets limited to 9 shots in 40 minutes and only 1 shot in the fourth quarter.
Also, too, but he wasn't posted up when he had a mismatch. He was standing on the 3-point line. He wasn't posted up a lot either. But
which is why Thibodeau got on him about not being active. Which is why Thibodeau got on him for not being active. I got you. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Hunter in Oakland, talk to me. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. I want to talk about the Minnesota-Houston game last night.
Go ahead.
I'm not taking anything away from what James Harden did. Like you said on SportsCenter last night, he was sensational. Along with Clint Capella, he had a big game. But I'm looking at Karl Anthony Towns. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he only attempted 8 or 9 shots. Offensively, I saw he had a lot of mismatch, and then he could have demanded the ball a lot more. What's your thoughts on do you think Minnesota's going to take a game, or do you think that Houston's going to get this?
I think Minnesota will win 1 game. I think Minnesota can win at least a game, possibly 2. I just think ultimately they lose this series in 6 games tops, likely 5, because I don't think they have enough offensively to offset what Houston's going to throw at them. That's my personal belief. Appreciate the call. Nick in Dallas, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Nick, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. I appreciate you having me on the show.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I want to talk about the MVP race. I just got a question for you. How do you feel about Kobe only having 1 MVP and Shaq only having 1? Do you feel like they're more deserving for more?
I think Shaq definitely deserved more because he was the most dominant force we've seen since Wilt Chamberlain in the sport of basketball. And he definitely deserved more than 1. I thought one of the years Steve Nash got it should have gone to Shaq.
Definitely back-to-back. But I got another question. So just basically a comment. So being said, I feel like in today's society, we just basketball is kind of like we done gotten a little nicer, a little softer the whole game. just everything, physically, mentally.
Well, we have, because they would, after the bad boy Pistons, and then after that, how ugly the New York Knicks made a few series as well. They came to the conclusion that it wasn't the brand of basketball that was exciting, so they made a move in a different direction to soften up the game and what have you, which obviously factored into the equation. When the Golden State Warriors came along a few years ago, they looked tremendously entertaining, and Mike D'Antoni before that in Phoenix with Steve Nash, Joe Johnson, Amari Stoudemire, and those boys. So we look at it from that perspective, but clearly the game has changed, no doubt about it. Gotta go, by the way. Thank you so much. Stephen A. Smith Show brought to you by Indeed, used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Talk to y'all tomorrow, 22 hours from now. Lots of stuff to get into. I'm in H-Town, but I'll be back on the East Side. Until then, peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.